Hello everybody and welcome back. And the party are at the bottom of a trail that leads northward-ish. They have just left the Rakasta people, some nomadic cat-like people, and they have been told that somewhere there is what the Rakasta called flying mice, but they don't seem to be dangerous. The party are going northward to the Mountain of Death, which is what the Rakasta people called the Central Plateau. Doesn't bode well. But on this trail we can move 2 hexes today, and we'll do just that. And I will roll for a wandering monster on a roll of 4 to 6. And there isn't one. If we bed down for the night, I roll for another monster on a roll of 6. And again, we're lucky not to get one. I have been advised I should start using Wandering Monster Table 2. Last time we rolled a 16 and got ghouls. If I had used this table, we would have got direwolves, which we would have wiped out instantly, or they would have run off. But this table seems to be quite varied, because the direwolf is probably one of the easiest creatures here. There are dragons in 3 different colours, as well as hydras and wyverns and God knows what. Right. Okay, now we are here. We do hear strange chittering type noise in the trees, but given the sort of variety of the fauna of this island, that could be anything from a bird to a monkey. But Sylvia's ears seem to pick up something, and Malin notices a slight change in her demeanour, but it isn't enough for him to comment. These flying mice are not really flying mice. They're called the Phantoon, and they're a cross between sort of raccoon and a monkey. They aren't really rodent based at all, but the Rakasta didn't see them like that, and the flying is more the fact they can glide from treetop to treetop. We're told the settlement they live in is hidden 50 feet off the ground in the trees. The settlement cannot be seen from the ground, and any creature other than a Phantoon must be within 20 feet of the settlement to distinguish it from the surrounding greenery. So, unless we see the Phantoon, we won't notice them, but the trail does continue northeast. Right, everybody is at full health, which is good for once, and let's roll on the next day for a wandering monster. And again, there isn't any. That's good. So we're going to make it past the Phantoon camp onto the trail, but on the trail we see several bodies of these Phantoon are dead. There's maybe only about 3 of them. And our first instinct is to think it's the party of humanoids that raised Tanaroa and has been going northward, and which also attacked the Rakasta. However, well, when we look at these strange raccoon-like creatures, we guess this is what the Rakasta called the flying mice. We haven't seen them before, but also the wounds are not slashing. It looks like they've been pierced with 2 prongs. And that makes us think of giant fangs. We have seen fangs like this before on, well, giant spiders tend to have things like this. And also there are these strange yellow spiders which are based on a camel spider that look really unbelievably ugly. And they are called the Aranea, and they're described as intelligent giant spider race. They are as large as small ponies and are greenish brown in colour. The Aranea are web spinners and their bite is poisonous. In addition, the Aranea can cast as a 3rd level magic user, 2 1st level spells and 1 2nd level spell. We haven't seen this before in them, but there are traces of web on these dead Phantoons, and that makes us stop around and look for some giant spiders. So we're going to pause for a bit and not go any further. We'll wait until something, if there is anything out there, comes to find us. So we're going to stop for the night just off this trail, and on a roll of a 6, does anything come to look for us? And it doesn't. But it's going to be one of those nights where people have to keep watch in case we get attacked by whatever killed these rather harmless looking creatures. But oddly enough, the noise in the treetops, that sort of strange chittering, chirping sound continues. We hear it sporadically for a bit, and it is Sylvia who looks around, and she doesn't look too happy about it. But let's see what happens in the morning. Right, morning comes, as much as morning can come in the thick of a jungle. The day gets brighter, but there is no sense of sunrise. Again, while the party are preparing for the day, they hear this strange chirping, twittering noise from the trees above them. It does begin to sound like language, and it's Sylvia who is looking around trying to pinpoint its source. However, she looks quite perplexed and she has a furrowed brow. Clearly, she is thinking of something. However, this is where things go downhill because there is a larger, heavier rustling in the canopy of the jungle above us, and we hear a sort of thin, screeching voice starting to chant, and it's Malin who recognises this as a sleep spell. The spell goes off and the original chirping, twittering sound turns into a scream. We hear a sort of panicked rustle through the branches, and then 3 more of these Phantoon just drop from the trees into the ground beneath us, and they're fast asleep. They don't die from the fall because their skin membrane, which acts like wings, helps them drift down, almost like autumn leaves. It's a truly bizarre sight, but there isn't enough time to remark on the comedy of that, because in the trees above us we see 4 of these hideous yellowish greenish spiders with their massive heads and oversized jaws. These are the Aranea, and one of them casts a sleep spell on the Phantoon in the trees, and they're coming down the tree trunks after us. There is clearly no surprise. They revealed themselves, and by the time we saw them, they saw us. So let's roll for initiative. We get initiative, good. And as I keep remarking, the initial initiative can make or break the fight. Okay, so intentions. Sylvia is going to cast Haste, Malin is going to cast Fireball up at the trees, Liz and Maridin are going to shoot at these things, and the other 3 boyos are going to take up their fighting position ready for this. So we're beginning with movement while everybody is sort of in place. Missiles, this is Liz is going to try and shoot the one that's clearest, and she misses. Maridin is going to try and shoot, and he misses. Spells, I'll do Sylvia with Haste, so that means Donard, Carrick and Tybor have double attacks, and then I'll do Malin with the Fireball, and he is currently level 6. He does 66 damage into the trees. He won't get all of them because they're too spread out. I'll roll a 1d4 plus 1. Okay, a rather average fireball there. Let's count this up. 16, 20 hit points. I'll do 1d4 plus 1 divided by 2 plus 1. Okay, let's work this out. So that's a 2, divided by 2 is 1, plus 1 is back up to 2, so he hits 2 of them, and he did 20 points. That's enough to kill both. Donard, Carrick and Tybor have to wait for these creatures to come down the tree trunks to meet them. Do they have a morale? Yes, they do. Their morale is 7. It's quite low. Their turn. And their morale holds up. Just so they still come down the trees at us. That will be their turn, their movement rate. So round number 2, we get initiative again. Okay, good. So we've got double archery and double attacks. Intentions, Malin is going to cast Magic Missile, Sylvia is going to cast her Magic Missile, and Liz and Maridin are going to shoot. So let's see if Liz can kill one of them with 2 attacks and a short range bonus. Yes, much different from the first go. At hasted speed, 2 arrow shots, twang twang, a bit of the Legolas going on there. And she does 1d6 plus 3 twice, so that's 10 plus 6 is 16. One of these Aranea just falls from the trees with 2 arrows in it. Maridin. Ah yes, and again, his targeting is on point, and he does 1d6 plus 2, so that's 5 plus 4 is 9. It's down to 5, and it's reached the bottom of the tree. That is within melee range, so we've got spells next. I did say Malin was going to cast his Magic Missile. He does 3 of them. Yes, that's 9 plus 3 is 12. That Aranea falls dead with 3 magical scorch marks in its head. Okay, with disgust at these 4 dead Aranea, and this is the first time we realised they can cast spells. We also have 3 Phantoon who have glided in their sleep to the bottom of the forest floor. We're gonna just nudge them awake, get them to sit up. They are extremely alarmed at us, and they make to run away. However, we have them surrounded, so they adopt a rather fatalistic attitude that, well, we're dead, get it over and done with. But we try to speak in common and make signals for them to relax, calm them. Liz suggests that we offer them food. They don't take the food, but they do wonder what we're all about, and they start speaking to each other. And it's Malin who remarks that their language sounds kind of like Elvish, and he's puzzled at this. He looks over at Sylvia, and Sylvia gives a small nod and says, yes, it's Elvish, or a form of Elvish. I haven't heard of it. Donard asks, do you know of these creatures? And Sylvia gives a rather sad nod and says, I have heard of them. I've never seen them before, and I didn't know what they looked like, and I didn't know they could kind of speak Elvish. Of course, we want to know what is the story behind this. And it's here we have to go back to the map of the continent, to Alfheim, which is the Elven Forest. These are not the Kalari elves of Sylvia's people, but she does tell us a story that there was a mage who was interested in transformation and mutation, and he bred these Phantoon people as pets. They turned out to be more intelligent than anticipated, and there was a huge debate as to whether or not their fate with the elves was of pets or of slaves. The elves decided these Phantoons were actually slaves, and this was an experiment gone wrong. A land was sought to release them into and give them their freedom. The Isle of Dread was chosen, and an elven ship set sail for here and released all the Phantoon onto the island. They have retained some of their elvish speech. They have made it their own form, and Sylvia can understand every third word clearly and every second word sort of, and every other word is completely new to her. So it is up to Sylvia to translate and put these Phantoon at ease. Though of course the Phantoon will have their own stories of the elvish people, and it mightn't be a good one. So let's see how this pans out. Sylvia tries to ingratiate the party with these poor Phantoons by asking them, well, simple questions like, are you okay? It would be the equivalent of speaking in broken English for them. They're extremely wary of her, but they nod, don't offer up much instead, and she asks, do your people need help? Do you get attacked often by these spiders? The Phantoon nod, but it's more the way a nervous child would nod to questions just to stop the questions being asked, rather than an enthusiasm. Sylvia says, can you take us to your camp? So this does not go down well, but they seem to resign the fact that they are trapped, even though nobody has yet threatened them. So the Phantoon lead us back along the trail to here, and they start climbing the trees, which seems natural to them as they're able to do it with just their claws and their limbs. However, that's not the case for us. But we look up and sure enough, we see in the treetops, extremely well disguised, is an entire settlement of little buildings and walkways. And the map looks like this. These are platforms. Luckily for the party, sometimes seems the Phantoon have guests. After the ones that escorted us here climb up into the treetops, we wait for what seems to be about 20 minutes, and then a trapdoor is opened in this one here, 10E, and a rope ladder suddenly falls down to the jungle floor. We might be about here, so it will take us a moment to walk over to it. We shrug and start to climb up the ladder. Malin asks Sylvia again, why are these people suspicious of elves? Did you not, treat them well? And Sylvia again looks a bit sheepish, and she says, well, there is a version of the story that says the elves did release the Phantoons into freedom after deciding it was cruel to keep them as pets. However, this second version of the story is that they were simply put into a boat and set adrift to find their own land. And Malin says, but they could have died at sea. I mean, we know how big the sea is. And Sylvia kind of looks sheepish and shrugs. Says, yeah, I'm not sure about that version of the story, but it could be possible. So we climb up the rope ladder. Let's just give a guided tour of the Phantoon settlement. 10A. Here, these are huts. We're told there are 14 Phantoon there, and we're told they're males, females, and children. 10B, this large area here, there are 5 huts, 20 Phantoons, including the war chief and his bodyguards. We will be taken there. 10C, D, E, and F are other platforms. There are 3 huts on each, and each has males, females, and children. The wooden huts are filled with skillfully carved furniture made from many different types of exotic woods. Dozens of hanging plants and ornate mobiles decorate the huts. So these are indeed another intelligent people who have made craft their defining culture. They might also play music, and I hate to bring up Ewoks, but I wonder if George Lucas was influenced by the Phantoon settlement. That's, I think, what we're going to get ourselves into. So we are escorted along these platforms with these wooden rope bridges between them to here, and it seems like the entire village has come out to meet us in the treetop settlement, and we're faced with the chief. These creatures jabber and twitter to each other. Now that we have been told the history of the Phantoon, the rest of the party, even though they don't speak Elvish, they can pick up the cadence and the intonation of the language, and they can detect the Elvish in it. It's just unfortunate that Sylvia, who will be our translator, is the one they least trust. We're treated with caution, and the chief thanks us for saving his people from the Aranea. This is the first time we've actually heard the name for these spiders. So Aranea is the Phantoon name, and Sylvia recognises it as a corruption of the Elvish word for spider. They want to know what we're doing here, so even though they are quite intimidated by us, the chief does put up a stance that we are on their territory and we need to answer to them. He doesn't need to put up that front with us. We're quite happy to oblige, but he is the chief and his people are nervous, so he has to take charge. We tell them everything. We tell them we are heading towards the central plateau, which they themselves also call the Mountain of Death. That causes a rather hurried hush to go around the camp. That in itself is an almost unusual suicidal thing to do. We ask, have they seen another party like us passing through here, possibly going in the same way? And the Phantoon nod, but they did not engage with them. And they passed the Phantoon camp, unaware of this treetop village, as they kept to the forest floor. Yes, they were heading towards the central plateau. The chief wants to know why we want to go there, because the only people who would go there are of evil intent. We have to assure him that is not us. We are there to end the evil, and we hope that killing the spiders will have proved that's the side we're on. And we ask for help and guidance to see if there is a way to get to the central plateau without much danger. The Phantoon leader says yes, they know the way there well, though they know it mostly from the trees rather from the ground. But he is quick enough to realise he can make a bargain that will help his people and help us, and his bargain is this. To the northeast, on the other side of the low mountains, there is the lair of the Aranea. That is where they come from. The Aranea are the people the Phantoon fear most, because the Aranea can climb trees and can cast some spells. If we kill all the Aranea and come back again, then we will be given a Phantoon guide to take us to the Mountain of Death. Of course, we want to know, how do we get to the Aranea? And the chief says, I will send a guide with you. Though of course none of the Phantoon seem to want to step forward to be that guide, but he's going to pick at least 2 of his bodyguards. They let us stay for the night, but we have to sleep in the open on one of the platforms. But we do feel safe, because unless this place gets attacked by a dragon during the night time, it's unlikely that anything will climb the trees. So I will roll for a wandering monster encounter, and we need a 6 or more. We get a 6. Alright. God. Right, okay. Are these Phantoon going to get burnt to crisp by a dragon? We are on this table here. Let's roll some percentage dice. While I'm shaking them here, you watching at home can have a sweepstake as to what you think the result will be. That's 82. Oh, it's rock baboons. Oh, that's nothing. Okay. I suppose we could say that the rock baboons have climbed the trees because the Phantoon are good at gathering honey, and the rock baboons have been known to try and raid the camp to steal it. But they are baboons. They're not here for any malicious intent. They're just after food. So we'll see how this goes. Right, let's roll to see who's keeping watch. And with a rather large party of 7, and it will be the 2 that roll the highest. Okay, well that is Tybor and Liz. Interesting combo. And sure enough, some of the Phantoon are also keeping watch, and they start creating a commotion. Tybor gets up and says, the flying mice. Is there a cat among them? And Liz points over to a tree and she sees 3 what she thinks of as monkeys climbing over the edges of the platform. If we're here, we could suggest that the baboons are there, so Tybor will have to take a round to get there. There's no surprise because the Phantoon themselves are alerted. Now the Phantoon don't like fighting rock baboons because they're tough, but we'll roll for initiative. We get initiative. Right, Liz is going to see if she can shoot one, and perhaps the rest will run off. And yes, she can easily shoot one and takes it down to 2 hit points. Tybor is crossing this walkway to get to them. Let's see if one of the Phantoon bodyguards can hit a baboon. He misses. Let's see if the other one can. Yes, he hits, and he does 6 points, so 1 is down to 3. Right, let's do a morale check for the baboons. And does it hold up? Yes, it does. So they get a chance to attack. Right, I'll do one on a Phantoon bodyguard, and it hits him for a point. Another one misses, and the third one. The bodyguards have an armor class of 6, so that's a miss. So let's get into round number 2. And they get initiative. They can do that again. It's a bodyguard. No. Second one misses. Third one hits for another point. Okay, let's do us. Liz hits and kills a baboon. Screeches falls from the trees. Let's see if the Phantoon. One misses. The other one hits armor class 4. Yep, he kills the other one. There's one with 9 points left, and it's up to Tybor, who finally makes it there with his big 2-handed sword, and he almost chops the rope that's holding up the rope bridge. Okay, so we're on to round number 3. There's one left. We get initiative. Liz is good enough to hit. It's down to 3 points. Phantoon hits and kills it. Right, there are 2 injured Phantoon bodyguards, so come the next morning, we can heal them up, and that will further improve our relations with these people. But we have to prepare for a journey to the Aranea lair to confront these spell-casting, hideous giant spiders. Okay, and I will see you then.